Two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And a happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate. Darren Doogie Wolfson, our friend from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department, here for some scoopage, maybe some speculation.
I love Sports Dad.
I got to get one of those.
We should get some coffee mugs. Sports Dad coffee.
I'd love
mugs.
a mug.
If Ross Brendel is listening, let's put that on the merch agenda.
Sports
coffee
Dad
mugs.
Mug.
Judd's face, maybe.
I don't need my face on it. Nah, I just...
No, we'll put your face.
I love Sports Dad.
Caricature. So we'll get some juicy Twin stuff we'll get to, but to start with, Kevin O'Connell, contract extension. So all of the... Jay Glazer was fighting with people on Twitter, defending his report about teams wanting to trade for KOC. I've been told, by the way, that I'm going to report this exclusively here on Mackey and Judd, that teams would love to trade for Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, too. So keep an eye on that. The teams would like to acquire good coaches and quarterbacks. So maybe Jay Glazer can go with that one. What are you hearing about the way this went down, finally got signed? Is Kwesi next? What's the landscape of the Vikings leaders right now?
All right, well, happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. I get the blowback on Glazer, the timing of the report, wondering about that. And yeah, more than anything, Phil, the Vikings were never trading Kevin O'Connell. But sure, there was interest. I've mentioned this before. Like, it wasn't a surprise that we heard there was trade interest in Mike Tomlin. The Steelers were not trading Mike Tomlin. All right, so it wasn't realistic. On the extension, okay, reckless speculation on this Thursday, but J.J. McCarthy under contractual control for 4 more years. I have reason to believe term on this extension is at least that, maybe that, but it's not like 2 years or 3 years. I think it's more likely he is now under Vikings control through 2029. On the money, it really doesn't matter. It's not like there's a salary cap or anything like that. We're not talking Andy Reid type money. There is the report out there that Ben Johnson is getting around 13 to 13.5 million from Chicago. I think it's safe to say Kevin is above that. Way above, maybe not so much, but above that. But the money really doesn't matter. I think people are curious on the term. I think it's safe to say, Judd, the term is attached to J.J. McCarthy.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, this is his guy. This will be his sink or swim. So it makes sense. And you know, it makes sense for the franchise. It makes sense for O'Connell. It makes sense for McCarthy to know exactly who is going to be developing him, especially because he trusts that guy in O'Connell. I think financially, I looked this up. I think financially it's safe to say this. KO has probably moved into the top 5 in paydays as far as contractual goes. And McVay, I believe, is at 15. And if I'm not mistaken, Kyle Shanahan is at $16 million. I think it's fair to say that KO is somewhere there. Like, it might not be 16, 15 or so, but I think he has definitely graduated into the tax bracket of his mentors and colleagues. I think that's a safe assumption.
I think that is a safe assumption. I don't know if he's top 5 because I don't know what Harbaugh is making in Baltimore. I don't know what Tomlin is making in Pittsburgh. But point is, he is being very, 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 very well compensated. This is a good deal. I will tell you, though, people from both sides, like direct involvement, are swearing to secrecy, at least for right now. Now, is that attached to the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah negotiations? Not so much the money, but the term. Like, I imagine Kwesi's extension, which is going to happen, is probably for the same length of time, but maybe not. But I'm just telling you, like, even on background, like people that normally volunteer at least some semblance of information, maybe not the money, but would at least confirm the term, said, at least for right now, they are not releasing it. So the two sides, at least for right now, are on the same page to not leak any information, specific information about term or money.
Super interesting. In terms of so Kwesi's maybe next on the agenda, but Really, it seems like Sam Darnold is the next big thing on the agenda, right? Just timing wise, you've got a month and change until the franchise tagging deadline. That would be like the first week in March, and then the second week in March is the NFL league year opening up, where the Vikings can then start spending their $70-ish million in salary cap space, and then the draft. But I would assume that internally, the next month or so, with the Senior Bowl coming up next week, and then the NFL Combine, it's all about figuring out what to do with Sam Darnold. Can you franchise him and trade him? Is that too risky? Is he just going to walk and hit the open market and you thank him and pick up the comp pick in 2026, right, Dukes?
Absolutely. Now, there's still some curiosity on some Vikings assistants. Like I heard this morning that the Lions were poking around on a Vikings assistant. I don't have a name right this second, but still some curiosity as some of these staffs start to fill out. Could the Vikings perhaps lose an assistant? But yes, top of the list, Phil, it has to be, what can they get for Sam Darnold? Can they get anything for Sam Darnold? I am still not on the boat. I know there's a national writer from The Athletic suggesting this week, Darnold, 4 years, $160 million, somewhere in that ballpark. I just don't foresee it. I really don't. I think Sam Darnold is going to be elsewhere next season. The question is there a trade to be worked out? Franchise tag slapped on him, trade, then executed. That is to be determined over the next few weeks.
Scooby's got takes, that's for sure.
That's actually Maya. That's
Maya, Scooby, Stella. Stella goes crazy. She's going to wake up here and go nuts. On Darnold, too, I think part of the intriguing thing about this, Dukes, as well, is when you look at it, and we actually did this exercise on PD yesterday, there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, but there are only a few good fits for Sam. The two best fits that we deducted, the Raiders and the Steelers. So I think the question is, can the Vikings drum up any type of bidding war between those two teams? Because if not, they're not going to pay Sam. They're just going to, or they're not going to pay the Vikings to pay Sam. They're going to simply say, allow him to walk, we'll sign him then. So I think that's a really interesting thing is, can you get the Raiders and the Steelers, for instance, on board to both want Sam? At which point in time then trading him, franchising him makes some sense. Otherwise, I think you probably take the comp pick in 26 and you're done with Sam.
Could I add an element?
Although you're not guaranteed the comp pick. You're not promised.
True. Well, yeah.
You may, but you're not guaranteed.
The presumptive.
Does Sam need to be involved in this, and his agent, in this facilitation?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, his folks at Creative Arts Agency would be involved. Yes.
But it behooves Sam to have that happen, because I think the only way that he gets $40 million or more a year is to have that franchise tag slapped on him and negotiate off of that. So if Sam says no, and hits the market, I'm sort of with Dukes. I think it's a wild card. He still gets paid fine, but I think it's a lot less certain that he would make what the franchise tag dictates. So if I'm Sam, I probably say, okay, yeah, if you got two teams and you are going to franchise me and can trade me, go ahead, because he's going to ultimately make more off of that.
All right. So I get it on the Raiders and Steelers. I get putting them atop any list. I think the John Spytek hire by the Raiders is interesting. His name came up in the Viking search a few years ago. So, I mean, he's been knocking on the door of becoming a general manager. I'm now curious to see what the Raiders do with the coaching search, like we thought on Tuesday, Pete Carroll, but does that now change things with Spytek in place? But I understand Raiders, Steelers, 1 and 2 in some order on a list. Are we sure there's not more than that? Is it possible the Titans pass on Cam Ward, that they take Travis Hunter number 1, that the Titans could be an option?
Yeah.
I get it. We still need to sift through a lot of information. This is reckless speculation right here on this Thursday.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, are we sure it's just those two teams, the Raiders and Steelers?
It's also possible that the Giants are sitting in that 3 spot thinking, man, it's too risky. We might not get access to one of these quarterbacks, and we won't know for 5-6 weeks after free agency opens up. And also, Brian Daboll's on the hot seat. Does he have time to go through another bad season with a rookie quarterback, or would you rather just let's just bring in Sam? He's talented. I made it work with Daniel Jones for a year, for God's sakes. I can make it work with Sam Darnold. I think the Giants are a team to keep an eye on in that regard.
Point is, there is going to be a market. He is the clear cut, even after the debacle of the final 2 games. He is still, to me, the clear cut number 1 option. Like, I don't think Russell Wilson is all that close. I don't think Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. Okay, I understand if Tennessee falls in love with one of the draft-eligible quarterbacks. That I would understand, although the GM said on Wednesday, hey, like, we're not going to pass on a transformational type player. So if you're reading between the lines, that's not Ward, or I don't think it's Sanders. That's Travis Hunter, all right? But there's a lot of BS leading into the draft. I understand that, but you look at the Vegas odds, right? Hunter going 1, those odds changed pretty significantly after the Titans GM went on the record with those comments on Wednesday. But nonetheless, there's not another quarterback that's available to me that comes close to Sam Darnold. So there is going to be a market. That's why it still makes sense to me in the end. You do slap the franchise tag on him because there will be a trade to be worked out.
So it looks like the Bears' job is filled. The Jets' job is filled. The Jaguars are a complete and utter disaster. Parting company with their GM Trent Baalke yesterday when they had already gone down the process of talking to head coaching candidates. So the interesting thing here is I think you're pretty much guaranteed, and this is the good news if you're a Vikings fan, Brian Flores is back.
Yes, although I did check this morning. He has not been contacted as of this morning. But is it at all possible Ryan Grigson in the Vikings front office emerges in Jacksonville's GM search? Again, he has not been contacted as of Thursday morning. So I don't think there's necessarily steam. But, like, if Grigson did get one of these jobs, then you start thinking about Flores. Even though I still think, is there an owner that will hire him as long as he's still suing the league? I still pause on that. But a Grigson-Flores combination could make some sense. But I'm just telling you, as of Thursday morning, there is zero steam. But I did check on Grigson to the Jaguars.
That's a good one to check on. But dysfunctional teams always do it wrong. The Jets, Aaron Glenn gets the job, no GM yet. I guarantee you the Khan family is going to hire a coach now and then backfill that job. These teams are just so screwed up. I don't know why you would hire a coach first, but I think now there's a very good chance, guys, that Robert Saleh gets the Jags job, and then they bring in a GM to work with him.
Rick Spielman. Put me on the record.
Whoa!
There was flirtations with that
There
at one
has
point.
been flirtation in the past.
Well, Rick Spielman to the Jaguars need like just an adult to come in. I know people, he got fired here. He was a good general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. He couldn't find a quarterback, but they got Trevor Lawrence, so he doesn't have to worry about finding a quarterback. Go build a roster.
Phil,
I don't necessarily disagree. He hit on Darisaw. He hit on Jefferson. He hit on enough.
Yeah.
Couldn't necessarily figure out the offensive line as a whole, but hit on Brian O'Neill. Like, he drafted. I mean, some of the core today is because of Rick Spielman. I think his body of work, I don't think it's nuts. I think maybe some of his people skills, but he's gone through training. He's gone through some stuff, right? Where I think he's a different person today versus 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, I could also argue Chris Spielman over Rick Spielman if choosing a Spielman. But sure, it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard that Rick Spielman gets another shot eventually.
It's a good one.
Yeah, battle the Spielmans. Okay, we're gonna get to some good Twin stuff here and the rest of Doogie's scoop bag, but it's cold again here, folks. It is below zero. So old Macadac gonna bust out I think it arrived yesterday. A legit, it's a pizza. It's like a pizza oven that I will put legit pizza into. That's what I'm excited about. Throwback style. Oh no, I'm not bringing that thing in for you scavengers. For you scavengers, maybe we'll see. But pizza parlor vibes with Pep's Legit Pizza, crunchy crust, stone baked cracker thin crust, zesty tomato sauce, exceptional ingredients. Cut that thing into squares for the best experience. Find Legit Pizzas at a grocery store near you and have an authentic at-home pizza parlor experience. Underdog Dex. Let's talk about Underdog for a minute.
Yeah, I just saw a no sweat token that popped in late last night. So no sweat. Make your little pick'em for championship weekend. Make your pick'em for anything NBA or NHL related. No sweat at Underdog if you're a current user. And then if you're a new user, you want to get in, 50% deposit match when you sign up with promo code SCORE. Love Underdog. Love everyone sending me the screenshots of their big-time wins. And hopefully you can ride an over of 0.5 trade for Dylan Cease of the Padres to the Twins. I don't know if that'll be on Underdog, but if they make that available, maybe you ride that higher as well. Underdog promo code SCORE.
Okay. Is that the Athletic threw that out there that kind of buried the lead there that the Twins are one of the teams that's poking around on Dylan Cease. 1 year left, one of the best starting pitchers in baseball. Let's start there, Dukes. Do you think there's any possibility that the Twins, $13.5 million in arbitration left on the 1 year left on that contract? Or is this just the Twins are one of 8 teams and they're just not going to do anything?
All right, so let's circle back to less than a year ago, Declan. The White Sox complete a trade with the Padres, Dylan Cease to the Padres. Was that like March of 24?
I think that was 23.
Does that sound right?
Oh, no, that was last year.
You
right.
can look it up.
Into last year, yeah.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
The Twins engaged the White Sox. They had interest then in acquiring Dylan Cease. Those talks went nowhere because the Twins got the sense that the White Sox had zero interest in trading Cease in division. But we knew then, I brought it up in this space then, that this front office is a big fan of Dylan Cease. Now, I did text a Twins official on Thursday morning. I said, chances from a scale of I win the lottery tonight to great shot, you legitimately land Dylan Cease. This person texted back, it's better than you buying a lottery ticket this morning. Now, does that mean it's 2% compared to 0.2%?
Telling me there's a chance.
4%? AJ Preller, the Padres GM, plants more trade seeds than anyone else in the game. Most trades talked about never happen. He is asking for the moon. Now, do the Twins have the moon? Sure. So, has there been some dialogue? Yes. But I'm not quite sure it's any different than me volunteering that this front office, the Twins, is a big fan of Zach Wheeler. Are the Phillies trading Zach Wheeler? No. The Twins are not acquiring Zach Wheeler. I don't know if there's much difference. I guess the one difference would be it looks like Cease is going to hit free agency. Scott Boras' client, right? So he's a free agent after the season. The Padres have some turmoil, like ownership. Like they are just, it's a weird time in the Padres organization right now. Seemingly they need to cut some payroll. Now, is there a Louis Arise trade to be worked out where they hold on to Dylan Cease? Perhaps. I just know that AJ Preller is asking for a ton, but sure, there has been dialogue, and this front office is a big fan of Dylan Cease.
I think the key question here, too, is if you were to make a trade in which you sent Vasquez and a lot of prospects there.
A lot, Judd.
Yeah.
It's a lot more. It's a lot more than Christian.
Exactly. Cease is due 13.8 this season in the last year of his contract. So how do you make that work financially?
Well, sure. I mean, you'd be moving some of that Christian money.
Yep,
now,
it's 10.
It's not like San Diego's assuming that entire contract, but you're getting off some of that.
Mm-hmm.
There still can be a Chris Paddock trade to be worked out where that does turn into some sort of salary dump. Plus, it is possible that even though we've been told $134 million, that there might be a little bit of wiggle room. That maybe 134 is 135 or 136. So there are some ways to make it work. I mean, heck, the Twins are open-minded to trading a lot of guys. Like to think that Royce Lewis, for example, is untouchable. Not necessarily. To think Ryan Jeffers is untouchable. Not necessarily. So I think there's a lot of different possibilities. But I still think it's a long shot. Just because AJ Preller, like, I love how he likes to be aggressive. Like, he makes a lot of trades. So him inevitably trading one of Arise or Cease, like, that's very, very likely. I just don't know, though, if they'll be able to find a match. But interest, sure. So credit to The Athletic for that bit of information on Wednesday night.
For both Doogie and Dex here, on Royce Lewis, the vibes were weird in the second half of the season. He was publicly not happy with the Twins trying to move him to second base. I think him and other players were not thrilled about the lack of activity at the deadline. There was just, and then he slumped. I know he doesn't do slumps, but he slumped at the end of the season. He's this incredible talent who's dealt with injuries and some frustration. Now that he's had a few months in the offseason, I think he got married, so he's had 3 months to kind of exhale here. Where do we think we are with Royce Lewis, spring training coming up in a few weeks?
They definitely,
ahead,
I think they for sure they want to empower him. It was a tumultuous end to the season. Royce was on the record of displeasures, whether it came to moving to second, whether it came from, I remember talking to him after the deadline, he wasn't too pleased either with the lack of acquisitions. It feels like the Twins, and I think this starts with Rocco and Dukes. I know you talked with Rocco too. They want to empower Royce, and they don't want to overwhelm Royce Lewis. So I even think this whole second base plan that they could mix him in, I actually feel it might be Royce Lewis is more of your opening day third baseman, and maybe he spells, at second occasionally. But I think they want to make sure they're empowering him first before worrying about anything else when it comes to moving him to a new position, making sure his regimen's good. He works out with Trevor Larnach in the offseason a ton. So him and those two I know are working out in Texas a lot. I think they really want to empower him so they don't overwhelm him and have a situation like last year happen again.
I would agree. I was with Rocco for about an hour on Wednesday. We sat down on camera for a bit for a TV piece that will air Sunday night here in the Twin Cities on Channel 5. He made it clear to me, Royce is taking more reps at third base this winter compared to second base. Yes, he is taking some second base reps. Yes, he'll take some second base reps during spring training. Royce just wants to know what the plan is, right? When he was thrown second base middle of the season or end of the season, that game in Tampa, that came as a bit of a shock to Royce. Royce likes to prepare a ton, right? So he will get second base reps in Fort Myers, but Rocco was very clear. Like, he's getting more reps right now at third base. Plus, who is the opening day third baseman? So I said to Rocco, okay, opening day, March 27th, St. Louis, you're facing right-hander Sonny Gray. Can I tell you that your DH is Willie Castro, your first baseman is Eddie Julian, your second baseman is Royce Lewis, your shortstop is Carlos Correa, your third baseman is Brooks Lee, then your outfield is Larnach, Buxton, Wallner. He stopped me. He goes, okay, well, Pablo Lopez, opening day starter. Okay, Buck in center, Correa at short. Rocco wouldn't even give me anything beyond that. Like, Brooks Lee has to win a job in March. Brooks Lee, for lack of a better way of putting it, great young man, he stunk when he came up. That's what happens. It's a really, really hard game. Yes, Royce Lewis stunk the final 2 months. He was horrible. The first time, literally in his baseball life, from Little League on. Royce Lewis, when he has been healthy, has never failed. He just hasn't. He finally did. It was an emotional roller coaster for Royce. Many conversations with the team sports psychologist, right? Like, the mental side of the game really beat up Royce. So I think there's still some rehabbing that needs to take place with his mental makeup, just so he isn't quite the roller coaster that he was last year. But there's still a ton of uncertainty. Now, I will tell you, Rocco does. We've talked about this, Declan, but Rocco very much values first base defense. I still wonder what Baltimore does with Ryan Mountcastle. I really do. But I think Rocco is searching more than anything right now for a right-handed bat that can play center field. Like, we're talking 300-ish at-bats that Rocco is trying to account for in center field, that he wants a right-handed bat. Well, you look at the free agent market, the Twins do not have interest in a reunion with Michael A. Taylor. They would have some interest in Harrison Bader if the price came down, but he made $10 million last year. The Twins are not signing Harrison Bader for that sort of money. like a Jake Myers in Houston, trade candidate maybe. Like that's something that they are targeting. Rocco did tell me, though, he anticipates plural moves before, let's just say, opening day. Not singular, not move, but moves. Didn't promise me it's a first baseman. Didn't promise me it's a righty bat that can play some center field. But he does anticipate multiple moves to take place over the next handful of weeks.
It does sound like in his going through the circuit of talking to people both in TV and radio yesterday, Baldelli, that is, Dukes, it definitely sounds like he's channeled his late season justifiable frustration into ideas. He seems to really be putting an emphasis on competition. Now, I don't know if there's a legit amount of competition at all the positions he would like, but you could very much tell that he was fed up, and he should have been by the end of last summer and last season. And so it's going to be, I'm very intrigued to see how they do this. I'm very intrigued to see, and keep in mind, on the Royce front to second base, guys, that was new GM Jeremy Zoll who went on Inside Twins and basically talked about Royce playing second. And I felt very much yesterday, Rocco refuted that to a degree of, hold on a second here. He's still going to play a ton of third base. So it's going to be interesting to watch, I think. Feels like Rocco knows that ultimately at the end of the day, he's going to be the one to take the fall if this goes poorly again. And just from listening to him, I think he's going to try and take at least a little bit more control, because the guys that come down at 2 p.m. and tell him what to do probably are not going to be fired if the team has a poor season. Rocco is. So I think we're about to see, hopefully, sort of a little bit more of an edgy Baldelli as far as his own team is concerned. Not us, the team.
Yeah, I mean, heck, I get the strong sense that spring training is going to be different. Not significantly different, but maybe not as lax as in years past. And so start there. He still is bothered. Like he told me multiple times, he still is bothered by what took place last September. Way more so, though, on the offense. He defended the bullpen. He defended the rotation. He told me it was all about the offense. So that's why I'm telling you, Brooks Lee has to win a job in March. Anybody who thinks right now Brooks Lee in the lineup opening day, March 27th in St. Louis, no. Eddie Julian has to win a job. So I'm volunteering to Rocco. Okay, you're facing a righty, Eddie Julian at first. Like Eddie Julian has to win a job. Eddie Julian is not promised a job on March 27th. So I'm just telling you, I get the sense, starting whatever day it is, February 19th, February 20th, it's going to be a different type camp in Fort Myers.
Yeah. Okay, Dukes, last minute or two here. Give us anything left in your scoop bag for the week.
All right, let me look, although getting another text from...
Here we go. We got breaking news.
Julius Randle on his way to the Nets.
Oh,
yeah, no.
It happened.
It's not Julius Randle. I told you, Detroit.
D'Lo coming back.
Oh, it's back.
They've reacquired D'Lo.
Yeah, D'Lo coming back. There's a better chance Jimmy Butler would come back, and that's not happening.
Jimmy Butler.
Oh,
Yeah,
A-Rod and Lauren,
Cease.
they got the team. Let's go.
Yeah, there's a long way to go on Cease landing here. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying 0% chance because San Diego may ultimately trade him. But, yeah, I would not bet right now on Dylan Cease to the Twins. All right, what else did I write down? The Twins have representation at a Nick Anderson showcase in South Jersey today. Ezra Wise, Twin scout, representing the Twins at that Nick Anderson showcase. I did write down A-Rod, Laurie camp remaining very confident. So now we're down to days until the arbitration decision. We're getting closer to some finality. Now, remember, it's a binding arbitration. Now, I still wonder if there's some wiggle room on that, but in writing, it's binding. Also, people curious on Glenn Taylor. I think you brought up Glenn Taylor's name to me a few weeks ago. So he's like now 8-ish weeks past his hip surgery. For an 83-year-old, that hip surgery, like that's a 12-ish week recovery. So it's not a shock that we haven't seen him at Target Center. But let's just say, I think it's a process. Maybe that's the best way to put it. This Glenn Taylor recovery, it's absolutely a process.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's been the smoothest type recovery, which I get. 83 years old, hip surgery. Like, that's a big freaking deal, right? So there is that tentacle to all of this. I've not heard anything new on any sort of trade front. I know that Bleacher Report concocted a 3-teamer where Julius Randle ends up in Chicago. Yes, the Wolves. Tim Connolly has a great relationship with the Bulls front office. Heck, Tim's brother is an assistant GM with the Bulls. But I haven't heard of a whole lot of Julius Randle trade interest. I just haven't. Not poo-pooing the idea completely, but right now, just haven't heard a whole lot of steam on that front.
Oh. Well, we'll see. We'll see. He lurks in the shadows. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. Good stuff.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't think I wrote down anything else. So Mo Ibrahim, happy for Mo. Ran into him at TCO Performance Center last year. He was training at Training House even prior to that. Had that cup of coffee with the Vikings and helped out PJ Fleck and the Gophers. So ESPN had the note. He's joining Kenny Burns' staff, his position coach with the Gophers, now the head coach at Kent State. So that is indeed accurate. Not official quite yet, but happy for Mo Ibrahim. Really good dude.
Love it. All right, Dukes, we'll do it again on Tuesday. Another scoop session, and happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate Minnesota sports with Mackey and Judd.